Hello, welcome to Why Wait Till Sunday. It is Monday night, and we have a very special edition of our show tonight because I've got the whole gang from, well, almost the whole gang from CampusToCanton.com, which is the new home of Why Wait Till Sunday. So thought it'd be a great time to bring everybody on board, except for our data man, Jarek Backus. Could not make it tonight, but let me introduce. You can just wave for the camera, but we've got Austin, which is at Devi Dietz. We've got Colin at TC2C Decker. We've got Felix at Sharp Review and Matt Bruning at Sports Fanatic MB. You're probably familiar with all these guys if you follow me and listen to Why Wait Till Sunday. But if you didn't already hear, we've tried to do quite a big marketing, scheme on Twitter and everything. But if you haven't already heard, we have all banded together and started CampusToCanton.com, which is the first that we are aware of website dedicated to the Campus to Canton format, which is a very deep fantasy format that where you have an entire college side roster that competes for points and stats, and then you have an entire NFL roster, and your college roster feeds into the NFL if you weren't already familiar with that format. So we've got tons of stuff over there. We've got over 400 college players ranked, which is, I think, more than anyone else can really claim. We've got over 300 NFL players ranked by all five of us. We've taken the time to comb through all these players and put them there. The top 10 is available for anyone to see. And then if you want to get the deeper rankings beyond that, we do have a subscription plan. And what else? The other couple huge things is the Campus to Canton classifieds ads, basically, where you can look to find a league. We've got at least, I think, 6 posts right there now with leagues looking for players to fill. So a little more efficient than the Twitter version where you just send something out into the ether and hope that somebody responds. And then the other really unique thing is the data app that Jarek, who's not here tonight, but he put that together for us. He scrapes all college stats and information into a visualization app. You can plot, Kayshon Boutte versus Julio Jones and look at Julio Jones's career trajectory on the same graph as Kayshon Boutte, the hottest freshman receiver in the NCAA. So no one else has that information in that way, and we really are excited about it. That's enough of me. But tonight, all five of us are going to be talking about our top 10 quarterbacks on the college side. This is all classes included, from the guys who will be in the 2022 class all the way to the incoming freshmen. So with that said, does anybody want to introduce themselves, or I guess we can just throw it to someone giving us their number one quarterback, and then we can all say if we agree or not?
I also want to plug here that we are going to go deeper. I mean, much deeper than 10. We're going to go, through 100. But that's going to be exclusive content on CampusToCanton.com. And since I'm talking, I guess I will go first. I think there are 2 candidates for that number 1 position, and I've got Spencer Rattler. Because he's shown it a little bit more. I believe in DJ. And I think that we all, well, actually, no, we don't. For some reason, Alfred has DJ at 4, which is just crazy. But I've got Spencer Rattler at 1. I've got DJ at 2. Man, Spencer Rattler can throw that ball. He's going to be in the Oklahoma offense. He's done it before. And I don't know, maybe somebody has an objection to having Rattler at 1, but that's how I've got it.
Does anybody? You can see all of our rankings. There are some objections to Rattler at 1, so bring it. Who's got Rattler at 2 and why?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start there. I mean, I have Rattler at 2. It's not because I don't like Rattler. Obviously, I love Rattler. I think he's really good, but we've seen it a little bit more from Sam Howell. We've seen it a little bit more consistently. Rattler did have that rough start to the year. He got benched at one point. It was for a very short amount of time, but he struggled to start the year, so we have a really small sample size from him. So just for the fact that I've seen Sam Howell do it for 2 years consistently, I have Sam Howell ranked just ahead of Rattler, but it is very close for me.
As always, Colin is right. Sam Howell is by far the better quarterback than Spencer Rattler. Not even really a question. So
what? Have you watched the tape, bro?
I have watched the tape. Have you watched the tape? Sam Howell's better.
I don't know. I think Rattler's just got that quick release that I just crave in my quarterback prospects. Really kind of that shortstop motion to me, firing across the diamond in a very almost from any kind of platform, he can just sling it. Howell to me is a little bit more of the traditional pocket passer. I know he does run a little bit, but I'll tell you, sometimes with Howell, his deep balls just flutter a little bit. It's a little bit of just kind of that heave with a big rainbow. And I am concerned that he doesn't have all the throws in his bag, whereas I'm pretty certain that Spencer does. Austin, where do you have these guys?
I have Howell 1 and Rattler 2. And it's really, 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 really close for me, like Colin said. But the big separator for me is that the college production between those two, I think Rattler will do better next year. But I think Howell is a slightly better NFL prospect. And since I'm only getting 1 year, probable 1 year of college production out of the two of them, that matters less to me than it would in the debate between DJU and Bryce Young or somebody a little bit, an underclassman compared to those guys. That's really the only separator for me, because I think they're both good players. And I fully expect Rattler to outperform Howell next year. Surrounding cast, the conferences that they're in, and, the Lincoln Riley, the QB whisperer. So I fully expect that, but I still would take Howell before him, I think.
Fair enough. You mentioned something about getting, your college production. And when you take one of these players or rank one of these players, C2C is a unique format where you do need to consider you're getting stats on that side. So anybody who's listening to this or watching this that doesn't, routinely play this format or maybe dipping their toes into it, Austin, how do you judge that? How much do you weigh the fact, I'm going to get 2 or 3 years versus I'm going to get 1 year off the guy who's going to go to the NFL next year in terms of, your college production?
Well, I think if you're talking about any of these top 4 quarterbacks or really any of the guys, through the first 18 to 22 or so picks in these drafts that we're doing so far this offseason, they are all, high-level NFL draft prospects, and they're probably going to do pretty well in college, from a production standpoint. Obviously, maybe, there's a guy here or there that has a bad year, but I think, those spots are reserved for the guys that can do both. And I think that's where if you have.
Did he just mute himself?
He muted himself. Yeah.
Mid-talk.
That was impressive.
Mid-talk. That's very impressive.
I didn't even see his hands move.
It's like a Jedi mind trick.
I didn't touch anything. I have no idea what happened there. You guys
you sound a little bit different now too.
My mic came unplugged. I'll be back. You guys talk.
He kicked something. He's so upset that you two have Spencer Rattler over Sam Howell. He's kicking shit underneath his table.
It's not even. It's not that bold. It's not that spicy to have.
No, it's really not.
We got two of us, me and Felix, and the rest of you have Rattler at 2, so it's not that crazy. All right, we spent a lot of time on the top 2. We'll see. If Austin wants to come in and mention something else. Anybody have a final word on the top 2, which I think is pretty Well, is it consensus top 2? Yeah, at least for us. For us, it's a consensus top 2.
Look at Felix. Felix, why do you have Sam Howell all the way down at 4?
Does he really have Howell at 4?
He's got Howell at 4.
God, what is?
Because he's the least physically talented of all 4 of them. I like the athletes, so I got Spencer Rattler, who's got a cannon. If Spencer Rattler has a cannon, then DJ Uiagalelei has like a rocket ship or something attached to his arm. And then Bryce Young, he can do the running and stuff. And so I got Sam Howell 4, man. That's why I got it that way.
I don't hate it. I definitely defer to players, quarterbacks who can run a little bit. And Howell can, but I don't think in the NFL he's gonna do that.
I am so committed now to ranking higher the players that I fall in love with personally. Don't give a damn what anybody else has to say about it. So if I had to do a draft, that's how I would draft him. I would draft him Rattler 1, DJ 2, Bryce 3, and Howell 4. I know we haven't seen Bryce. We've seen a little bit of him in the Kentucky game. We've seen a lot of him at Modern Day. And I just loved his style of play, man. He's the next Fran Tarkenton, Russell Wilson, all of that stuff.
He's going to be great. I have no doubt about Bryce Young. He's my 3 for sure. So yeah, let's move on. So we've got the top 2 guys, Rattler, Howell. They're going to go, for most of us. I'm deferring to Howell. I mean, I agree. I actually don't disagree with Felix, but he's so locked and loaded top 5 draft pick that I feel like I'm deferring a little bit to that. I know what I'm going to get at the NFL level. But I don't hate Felix's rationale at all, and I pretty much subscribe to that myself. So then that leads us to the next 2. So we've got those 2. We've got the 2 coming up in the 2023 class in Bryce Young and DJU. Felix and I, again, are in lockstep there. I've got Young at 3. I've got 3 and 4. He's got 4 and 3, or 2 and 3, I guess. But what do you guys get? Giving it off to the rest of the folks on DJU and Bryce Young, because they're the next 2 that should come up together.
It's DJU for me, easily right now. I shouldn't say easily, but we've seen more of DJU, so it's easier to see what he has. I know Bryce Young has more athleticism, but as Felix mentioned, DJU has got a rocket ship connected to his arm. If you guys haven't listened to the newest episode of Campus to Canton, actually, Colin and Austin go pretty deep into talking about these 2. And the biggest thing I believe that separated them for you guys was their weapons around them, right? That's kind of how you guys finally decided to separate between Bryce Young and DJU right now?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely played a big role in it. I do have DJU ahead of Bryce Young. The weapons are a little bit more solidified there. Bama just lost a lot on offense there. They lost a lot of production. And I mean, we like the guys that are coming in at freshmen as wide receivers, but they're freshmen. So we don't really know what they are. And, DJU is going to get Justin Ross back, who, we could talk about him more in the wide receiver show, but I'm a huge fan of Justin Ross. Getting him back, I think, is going to be huge. And then, like you said, with DJU's arm talent is just special. It's just next level. It's I don't want to say generational because we just saw Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes with an arm like this, but it's on that level. It's a big time arm.
Yeah, I mean, he can run a little bit too if he needs to. I mean, he's not a complete statue. What does Felix say? Cement shoes?
Cement shoes, yeah, that's his new coin term. It's going on the t-shirt right next to I'm muted.
He's not fully cement shoes, but yeah, I like Bryce Young's ultimate upside. That's why I've got him 1 step ahead of DJU, but I don't think you can go wrong with any 4 of these guys. In your Campus to Canton drafts, in your Devi draft super flex, if any of these guys aren't already rostered, they're going to be the top picks until they're gone, pretty much, I think. So yeah, you can't go wrong with all 4. I guess the only guy who's not tracking to be a top 5 pick right now is Bryce Young, because we just kind of don't know, but the assumption is he will be. But I think DJU is for sure tracking there with the little bit we saw last year. Now it's going to get tricky. I think we're going to start, as these drafts do, or as these rankings do, as you get deeper and go deeper into the classes and whatnot, the evaluations are going to be very volatile. And that's what's so fun. I mean, I know that's what I love about either Deep Devi or C2C, because you can really just do what you want. I mean, you can just pick your players, you can get your guys, and it's not, those ADPs are a little bit more loose. So next for me is Keaton Slovis, who I loved after his freshman year. And then I just kind of fell off a little bit. I think the arm may have some questions, and he just didn't look as sharp in a weird season. I mean, Pac-12 season was one of the weirdest, even worse than the Big Ten. So I'm giving him a pass, but he did fall behind everyone else. Where do you guys have Slovis? I think I'm the high guy on Slovis still at 5.
Yeah, I don't like him.
I'm at 6.
Yeah.
I'm just not trying to chase that Joe Burrow profile, and that's the type of player he is. And I think Joe Burrow is an outlier, and I'm not chasing outliers at the position. And so I have, a player with a stronger arm, ahead of him in Carson Strong. And quite frankly, I think I should be putting Jaden Daniels over him also.
Yes.
But I'm not a fan. Look, he's a great college quarterback, but I'm always looking for NFL traits, and that's, opposite hash throws to make some wild plays, and I just don't see either of those things with Keaton Slovis.
I think Slovis makes Burrow look like Michael Vick. Really, if you're gonna make that comparison, seriously, I think Burrow has
that's the clip of the show right there.
Yeah,
Burrow has a stronger arm, which is nuts to sit here and say that Joe Burrow's arm is way stronger than anybody's, but Burrow's arm is way stronger and he's way more mobile. Slovis can barely move back there, man. It looks like it's a chore when you ask him to really move off his spot.
I would say, though, he can navigate. I think he navigates the pocket really well, but maybe outside of the pocket or off script, yes. But inside structure, I think he can really move around pretty nicely.
And how many quarterbacks in the NFL right now are there that's how mobile they are?
Yes, you're right. I'm probably going to drop him after this conversation. I'm pretty sure.
You should drop him after this conversation.
The other interesting thing about him, and I was talking about it when I went on with Kevin Coleman the other day, was that because he lives out in California, so I was kind of trying to pick his brain a little bit about it. And he said that, which I had not heard, after his first year in school, they were saying that he had never thrown the ball as much as he had that year. So he was complaining of, some shoulder soreness and tightness or whatever. And then he went out this year and had more shoulder injuries. That's shoulder injury on top of shoulder injury. That's not really good at all. So I think that's something that we really have to monitor, because I hear people saying, well, he was injured this year and so he'll come back next year. Okay, but now he's had it for 2 straight years. I don't know. That's very concerning to me.
And like you said, not the strongest arm to begin with. So then you take even a tick off that, we got an issue.
Yeah.
So just to touch on the ADP that you mentioned there a minute ago, Alfred, Bryce Young actually is coming in our ADP right now for the site that Austin's been running at 4. So, he is being drafted in those top 5. And then next is your guy, Keaton Slovis at 14, which I completely disagree with. But he is
14.
Yeah, he is the next quarterback coming off the board right now at 14.
Oh, overall 14, early second round.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm with Felix. I have both Jaden Daniels and Carson Strong over Keaton Slovis. And Daniels, the biggest thing for me that scares me with Daniels, obviously he's got that great athleticism, but his completion percentage, I believe, dropped to 50. Was it 50? It was 58. I was going to say 57 last year. Now that, again, I don't know how much of that was the weirdness of the Pac-12 season, though, as well. Not getting any real practice time or anything like that. Any time to improve what he was improving on or looked better in his freshman season. As things was moving forward, he looked better and better. I don't want to negate all of that into the weirdness of the season because they only played 4 games, Arizona State did 4
games.
So he only got to play in 4 games, didn't have Darby in most of those games. I think I don't want to write it off completely, but I do want to see that improved on this year. But even then, I just think he's got more upside than Keaton Slovis.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. I have Daniels as my QB5, and Daniels only threw 84 passes total this year through 4 games. His last 2 games on the year, he threw 11 passes and 15 passes. So there's just such a small sample size this year. Now, I like Daniels' mobility. I like his numbers from last year a lot better. Now, obviously, it wasn't a phenomenal completion percentage. It was 60.7, but it is better. And he just doesn't turn the ball over. He's such a smart quarterback. Last year, he only had 2 interceptions through the whole season. This year, he had 1. And again, it's through 4 games, so small sample size, but still, I like how smart he is. And with his legs, too, that he brings another aspect with his legs. But he's also a very, very smart runner. You don't see him taking unnecessary hits. And he's very slight, so that's a good thing. But he steps out of bounds. He'll still slide. He'll get down. So, I like his IQ a lot as well for Daniels.
Yeah, his yards per attempt was pretty okay, 8.3, little down from his freshman season. And you're right. I think the volume just I don't know what that Arizona State's had truly one of the worst seasons because they were so stutter step with their entire schedule and canceling and all this kind of stuff. But 701 yards in 4 games. I mean, that's awful. I mean, just awful. And they're giving it to a JUCO transfer running back and a true freshman running back. So it's not like they had, Najee Harris back there where they were just leaning on him. They had fresh guys and they wanted to run the ball. I don't know. I think the tools are there. I probably wouldn't move Jaden Daniels up. I think Slovis is going to come down, but I don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to go up for me until I see a little bit more. I agree the tools are there, but I haven't seen him put it together just yet. And that completion percentage is concerning. I mean, through his career now, he's sitting at 60%. That's just not quite going to cut it in the Pac-10, Pac-12 for me.
Slovis is basically sitting in this spot for me. I think I have him at like QB8 just by default because there really is not a lot of other guys there. We're waiting for somebody to step up into that space behind the top 4. Slovis is there because he's had one really good year in college. And even if, he doesn't keep his projection toward the NFL, you would think that keeps him in college maybe 2 more years at USC. With a lot of weapons around him, I think he'll still score a lot of points in a campus to Canton league. I think that's the only thing helping him maintain his value where it is. If he looks bad the first game or 2, he's going to drop down my rankings crazy.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
Just because if he's not scoring points in college, then I don't know how much he's actually worth.
I'm thinking he's going to fall 2 or 3 spots when I update, and it'll be tenuous there, like you said. I mean, it's going to not take too much to fall further, I think. That's probably a good call.
I have a question for you then, Austin, because me and Felix are both very high on somebody that I think is already better than Keaton Slovis, and you have him right there in the same range at 10, so why hasn't Carson Strong jumped him yet if he's just sitting there as a guy who's okay? I think Carson Strong, again, I understand Mountain West not the greatest. As Kevin was on with me today doing one of our exclusive content videos for the site, was talking about nobody plays defense in the Mountain West, and I get that, but I think Carson Strong has already shown he's a better prospect than Keaton Slovis, so why is he behind him for you?
I have not watched as much Carson Strong as you guys have. I'm pretty sure I've watched 2, maybe 3 games of them. It's a team that's really high on my list to sit down and watch all of them over the next month or so. Him. I like a lot of their receivers. I've been really intrigued by Cole Turner, their wide receiver, tight end kind of hybrid guy. I like Elijah Cooks. I like Dubs or Dalbs or however you say his last name.
Romeo
Horton, that true freshman wide receiver that broke out for them last year. I like their running backs and Toa Tawa. I like all those guys. I just need to sit down and watch them individually and kind of pick them apart and see what's there. My philosophy, honestly, in these drafts is if I don't get one of the top 4 quarterbacks, I just don't like any of those values. I'm punting until like quarterback 30, and I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty reasonable if you don't get the top 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually talked a lot about that. Again, I'm going to keep plugging the site. We did an exclusive content video today. Me, Derek Bosworth, Carl Bagley. I said a very inappropriate name for him today on the show. He got me on that one. Carl Bagley and then Kevin Coleman. We did a little C2C startup video, and that's what we talked about. It's a big discussion on those quarterbacks on what to do after those top 4 or 5 go. How long do you wait? Who do you take next and in what range? So I'm with you guys on that. Carson Strong is a guy that, in all honesty, I'm targeting. We've seen him go really late. I was going to try and pull up his ADP really quick. So his ADP is... Where did he go on here? I can't find him on this sheet now. I know he's somewhere near the top.
He's going as quarterback 14 because I'm writing an article about like our monthly ADP trends, and he's a guy that I have that's going too low based on where we all have him ranked and just where he probably should be going in the first place.
He's going toward the end of the 4th round. I actually got him in the 5th round of this one. We did our own startup, and I got him at like 5.5, and I'd love to take him there as my first quarterback because 4 rounds of loading up on running backs and wide receivers and then taking Carson Strong as my number 1 college quarterback, where, again, even if he ends up only being a backup in the NFL, which I think he's got the NFL talent, he's going to put up a ton of numbers in the Mountain West Conference this year, so he's going to help you on the college side at least, and I do think has some kind of NFL future. But Felix,
it's good to use a player as it's good to use a player as a baseline to say, is this player a first-round draft pick? And think about Teddy Bridgewater when you compare Carson Strong. Drop back passer, was prolific at U of L. Carson Strong is, but has a much stronger arm. And so if you think about Teddy Bridgewater went in the first round, I think that Carson Strong is a much better prospect. So I could see him going, in the 15-ish range in the first round next year, in addition to being able to potentially lead you to the playoffs in your campus on the college side of your campus to Canton leagues. So Carson Strong is actually my third ranked quarterback for the 2022 class.
And I got to call you out on something, Felix.
Okay, but to get him at quarterback 14, that's exactly what I got. Articles. I have a two-part series coming out this week on identifying the top 10 quarterback values for guys who can actually play on Sundays, according to this ADP that we're collecting. And Carson Strong is up there. So go to campus2canton.com. The first part will be dropping tomorrow morning, and the second part, picks 10 through 6, will be dropping tomorrow morning, and picks 5 through 1 will drop on Thursday. So,
okay,
what's up, Alfred?
Here's my question. You just got through this wonderful soliloquy about running quarterbacks, and you've got Carson Strong at 5, and he had negative 95 rushing yards last year. So
I mean, is that a question?
Like him, but number 5 for a guy who's as mid shoes as you could possibly be, he's negative.
So if you're a drop back passer, then you better have a damn strong arm. That's why Keaton Slovis is lower than Carson Strong for me. If you are an athlete and you can run the ball, then I don't really care as much. It's comparative. So I think that Carson Strong has an elite arm, borderline elite arm, I should say, for the college game. So that's why he's as high. And plus, I mean, no, he's not a runner. In college, they take into account sacks anyway.
That's true.
In rushing yards. So I'm just like, whatever.
I will say.
So you don't have to be an athletic quarterback to be good. Is that what you're saying? Interesting.
No, I'm not saying that.
I'm looking forward to a little conversation we're gonna have later. Okay. Sorry, Colin. I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're talking about Kyle McCord? You're talking about Kyle McCord?
I don't know who I'm talking about.
For the exclusive
when we get there.
We're not getting into freshmen until you got exclusive stuff.
Excuse me, I'm pretty sure I had a freshman in my top 10. So
I almost had a freshman in my top 10.
I do have a top 10.
Do I have a freshman in my top 10? Well, no, never mind. Yes, I do.
I do.
I have 2 actually.
All right.
I have 2.
So let's see where we want to go with this, because the values are going to start getting crazy. I'm the low man on Carson Strong. I don't love him. I did a whole film session on Romeo Dubes. I really like him. I watched a lot of Carson Strong doing that session for a Sleeper Saturday, and I came away fairly unimpressed. I can go back and look again. Maybe I'm missing something, but just looked a little bit scatterbrained in terms of commanding the offense. I mean, yeah, he can throw it far, but I didn't see a lot of cool, calm, and collected he just kind of looks erratic sometimes. But anyway, I digress. I'm the low man on Carson Strong.
Have you seen the offensive line blocking for him? I'd be
erratic. The team stinks, but still, he doesn't look like he reacts great when the line breaks down. He kind of reacts all scatterbrained. But
I will say, if Carson Strong doesn't declare this year, does that affect him at all for either of you guys? I mean, he's
what, a red shirt? He just finished redshirt sophomore, right?
So he'll be a redshirt junior.
Yeah.
So if he comes back again, I mean, he's going to Nevada. You never know what those guys are coming out.
No, because Jarek's not here, so that doesn't matter to me about how long he's been in college. It doesn't matter to me for
quarterbacks as much.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't matter as much for a group of 5 schools, which Carson Strong is at. Listen, I think he's going to have an excellent season. If he decides to go back, he decides to go back. I mean, it doesn't bother me. Especially if he puts up, electric numbers again.
I feel like if you hear him go back, I feel like if he goes back, he got some news from the NFL that said you're probably not going in the first round, because outside of Rattler and Howell, then it's really uneven as far as who the next quarterback's going to be. Where you're talking about him potentially being top 15. I think if he goes back, he didn't get that news. I think he heard something he didn't like, and he's now sticking around.
But that could be possible just because of where he's going to school, though, right? I mean, how many of those guys do you see come out that get that kind of draft capital to begin with? Like, I don't know if it's necessarily he's getting a bad grade, or maybe he thinks he can go in there and compete. Maybe Bryce Young has a bad year. I mean, there's a lot of different factors. If he puts up close to what he did this year, I don't see how he won't have at least a decent draft grade. But I mean, you got what, Najee Harris last year? The rumor was he had like a second or high-end third-round draft grade and came back to school and got a 1. Maybe that's what Carson Strong is. Maybe he comes out, they're like, oh, you're probably like a low-end 2, high-end 3. And he's like, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. Goes back to school and ends up having another great year and gets that back-end first-round capital. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing if he goes back to school. For quarterback, I don't really think any player goes back. I'm not hating on Devonta Smith because he was 30 years old and beating up on 18-year-olds. I don't care. He still did it. He was out on the field doing it, so... I'm just kidding. All the Devonta Smith truthers, don't come at me. It was a joke.
Yeah, your mentions, bro.
I'm just kidding. I like Smith. He's good.
All right. We got to move on because we got to get through the top 10 before we get to the deeper quarterbacks. I've got a guy next. I guess I'm kind of just going by my list. I don't know if that was how we should go, but JT Daniels, I'm right along with Felix here. I've got Daniels at 6, Felix is at 7. You guys are very low comparatively on JT Daniels. Why do you say he sucks? What do you not like?
Everything. What do you like? I guess is the easier question to ask. I'm just curious.
He looked good this year for Georgia. You don't think so? In his
in
4 or 5 games? 5
was it 4 or 5? I really feel like it was 2.
Look, you love Carson Strong. I'm gonna come at you with Jarek's gonna be proud. I'm gonna come at you. Hold on.
Bad mechanics, no athleticism. I don't think that his IQ is that good. I really don't. That's my biggest thing with him.
Well, Matt's worried about like a Ken Dorsey situation here where he's surrounded by so much talent that the talent around him is elevating him. But at the same time, I got to rank him highly because he is surrounded by that talent, so he's going to make these plays. He was the number 1 or 5-star quarterback in his class. You know, there's not a freshman that's going to come in and take the job behind him. And he's got George Pickens and Jermaine Burton and all of those running backs and Darnell Washington. I mean, it's going to be hard for him to fail, which is why I have to have him ranked in the top 10.
That's why I disagree with that. Go ahead, Alfred. Sorry.
I thought the arm was solid. I know he's got some footwork issues. I mean, I've heard that. I've seen that myself. But, like, we're all fawning over Carson Strong in the Mountain West, except me. I'm not fawning over him. But 8.1 yards per attempt in the Mountain West, not terribly impressive there.
That is entirely a result of they throw, like, anytime a cornerback is off, they just hike the ball and throw it to the. That's why that is. But
I don't know.
But he's an aggressive downfield passer.
Well, that also is, that's why his completion percentage is like 74% or whatever it was. Also, because he's throwing these little passes. But anyway, JT Daniels comes in 4 games in the SEC, 10.3 yards per attempt. 67% completion with a 10 point, like that's awesome. Like that is really awesome. I know it's a small sample, but like that's, Tua Joe Burrow type stuff. When your yards per attempt is over 10, and I know that's just statistics and the film may say something else, but I just like where he's tracking. And like Felix said, he came in 5-star guy. He's going to have the pedigree. He comes in and lights it up next year. Then we're really going to be talking about first-round potential, I think, in the NFL, unless his arm strength is so bad. But I feel like I saw him throw some stuff, caddy corner to the opposite, back corner of the end zone a couple of times. Really looked like he could sling it. But I know he does have some mechanics issues. But you asked me, what do I like about him? That's what I like. Some of those numbers were really good in that short sample.
Before Austin and Colin give theirs, and it sucks now because Felix is gone, so he's not even going to hear my rebuttal, but I disagree with his opinion on having him this high because he can put up stats because he has talent around him. I don't care about that part of it. I'm not drafting him just for the college side, though. I want him to succeed in the NFL, too. And if I don't think he can succeed in the NFL because the talent is raising him up, then I'm not going to have him ranked that high. I don't care because I'll find another quarterback like a Malik Willis in the 20th round who's going to give me just as many points as JT Daniels, and I don't have to take that high. And once he gets in the NFL, he's gone. I don't care because he's going to be just as good as JT Daniels in the NFL. So I don't care what he's going to do points-wise or how other people are going to lift him up. I want him to lift the players up around him, which is why Carson Strong is better. Go ahead, Austin.
So
Colin,
I'll provide this rebuttal, Bruning. Like I don't think that we know yet with JT Daniels. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the.
I know.
I'm going to given his his pedigree as a recruit and what he did when he was finally, as a matter of fact, what he did at USC and then what he did when he was finally healthy at Georgia. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And say that he's properly ranked.
One more
Didn't
thing.
he get beat out by Keaton Slovis, who sucks? And we just had a whole 5-minute conversation about how Slovis sucks.
Wasn't it injury related? Wasn't it injury? Keaton Slovis taking that position was injury related.
No, it was injury, and then he just left.
Yeah.
But one more thing I'm going to say, and then Austin and Colin, I'd like you guys to weigh in, of course. But you say he didn't elevate all this talent around him, but did you happen to catch any Georgia games before he was their quarterback?
No, because they had guys like my talent out there throwing the ball. So no, it really didn't seem quite.
Well, those guys, all that talent around him didn't elevate Stetson Bennett, didn't elevate DeJuan Mathis to do anything at all. I mean,
because when you're asking Matt Bruning to go out there and throw the ball to George Pickens, as in Stetson Bennett, it's a little bit different than JT Daniels. I'm not saying JT Daniels is a trash can out there like Stetson Bennett. If you or your family's watching, I apologize. Not necessarily comparing you to a trash can, but if you're talking about those guys, I'm not comparing the two, but I'm saying that JT Daniels is a step over Stetson Bennett, but that doesn't mean he's a step above what Carson Strong can do or Jaden Daniels or a top 10 quarterback. I would rather take a guy who's a freshman in high school right now over JT Daniels.
I just think he elevated. I mean, I actually think the opposite of what you're saying. I think he did elevate that offense. He got it to click. They looked explosive when he was their quarterback. And I thought he kind of did elevate that talent that was just dormant with all these other, trash cans. No offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think with JT Daniels, I think there's a very clear distinction between Georgia's offense at the beginning of the year and when he took over. I don't think there's any real arguing with that. I mean, he looked so much better, and you saw the numbers look better. He unlocked Pickens, he unlocked Burton. So yes, I think that JT Daniels is going to put up some big numbers next year at Georgia. Now, I don't necessarily think he's a great NFL prospect right now. He's not very mobile, something we look for. We've mentioned it before. He struggles in the pocket. He struggles with pressure at times. He just doesn't handle it very well. He looks a little erratic. And, yes, he had that huge YPA, the huge yards per attempt this year. I don't think that's sustainable. I think that's coming back down. His completion percentage, I think, probably coming back down as well. So, I think his efficiencies are just at an unsustainable level as well. So I think that overall, while he'll put up some really nice numbers for you next year, I think he's more of a name value right now. And I think that he's a candidate to get overdrafted based on his name, based on his school.
Yeah, if you look at if you look at his ADP right now, I think he's getting overdrafted. And I think a lot of it just has to do with people are trying to fill that void. No matter how many times we tell them, just after the top 4, just stop taking people for like 5 rounds. Just don't take a quarterback. People are not listening to that. And, he's going quarterback at QB 8 at an ADP of 28, which is like early round 3. And if you just look at the skill position guys that go in that range, you're talking a Jace McClellan, Kendall Milton, Jermaine Burton. It does drop off a little bit after there, where it's Damon Demas, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Will Shipley, Quentin Johnston, but those are still guys that I think I can reasonably project better to the NFL than I can JT Daniels.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think his pro prospects are unknown. I'm a little more with Felix, where he's getting some benefit of the doubt from me, but obviously not from everybody, and that's why this game's really fun. I mean, I was impressed, and honestly, if you put them side by side, Carson Strong or JT Daniels, I was more impressed with JT Daniels. But we all have our own,
That is why you need to go to campustocan.com, join the Discord, and tell Matt, Colin, Austin, and Alfred why their rankings suck. And there's one guy whose rankings are outstanding. That's why you need to do that. Go to campustocan.com, check out all our rankings.
Oh, are Jarek's rankings up? Did I miss
I was going to say Jarek's rankings haven't been put in yet, so they can't tell him that yet.
Well,
thank you for a word from our sponsors, Felix. Sponsored by campustocan.com. But yeah, I mean, the Discord really is fun, and you can absolutely go in there and just give us hell about our rankings. That's part of the fun. I mean, you could do it publicly on Twitter, but it'll be more appreciated in the Discord. So let's go to a guy I wouldn't have gotten to on my top 10, but consensus, I'm very low on him, and everybody else seems to like CJ Stroud from Ohio State. He's the consensus number 8 when you put our rankings together. He is he's a second page guy for me. He's 13, so not that far out, but you guys all seem to have him much higher. Bruning, I mean, I don't know what to do. Bruning would be normally the guy I'd send this to, but he's actually probably not as high on CJ Stroud. So who wants to talk about CJ Stroud? I don't have a strong opinion. That's why he's kind of just middling at 13 for me.
Why are we talking about a backup quarterback right now? In
the
top 10.
You'll get a chance. Easy.
Well, like Austin and I mentioned on our most recent Campus Life show, I feel like there has been a little bit of the Matt Bruning effect with him for me. You're planting that seed of doubt in my mind. Where I was before you brought up Kyle McCord, and before Alan True mentioned Kyle McCord as well. Possibly winning that job. I felt pretty good about Stroud winning it, which is why I have CJ Stroud at number 7. I don't know if I see him falling too much for me because I still think CJ Stroud wins that job. I really liked his skill set coming out last year. He was my QB3 behind obviously the big 2, Bryce Young and DJU. But I like his skill set. He's mobile. He lit up the Elite 11 last year. He was the MVP of that, I believe, right? The year he was coming out.
Yeah, that's when his recruitment really went crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, he showed it against some top competition there. So I think he's still going to win that job, but like I said, you keep putting that little kernel of a doubt in the back of my mind there, Bruning.
I will not move CJ Stroud even if he gets surpassed, because that's totally admitting that Matt was right, and I'm not going to do that. So that will never ever happen in a bajillion years. CJ Stroud will be my quarterback 8 until the end of time on the website.
I like your conviction.
Thank you.
I respect that.
I hope you hold. I would love just an honorary CJ Stroud QB8 forever. Yeah. Like it just never changes.
When he's playing at Toledo next year, and then Alfred's just Austin's just gonna be like, nope, QB8.
He can still.
I love how we put all the transfers in Toledo. That's where all the transfers are going to Toledo.
I'm not too terribly impressed with him. I don't know what to do with the Ohio State quarterbacks. I mean, we talked about this on the Devi debate last week about this whole sandwich situation with all the quarterbacks, and you got Stroud and you got McCord, and then whoever starts this year, then you got to deal with Quinn Ewers coming in, who's like, God mode as a prospect, and we will see, maybe he'll bust like almost every other guy with a 1,000 rating on 247 or 24/7. But anyway,
can I ask
know.
A question? Can I ask a question to Austin and Colin? Because I mean, you guys are dialed in and you're smart guys. What percentage chance would you say right now that Quinn Ewers actually ends up at Ohio State in January of 2022? And then what percentage, if Kyle McCord wins the job, where would you put that percentage?
Man, that's a tough one. I think that there's still probably 75% chance that he's going to stick around at Ohio State regardless, because most of these guys where you see coming out of high school, like most of them are very confident guys, and they're like, I can beat out anybody for this job. I feel like that's probably the mindset that he has. So I think that he's probably going to stick with Ohio State. Now, obviously, especially if Stroud wins the job, because if Stroud wins the job, then you have to think that the quarterback from Ohio State who won the job, he looks good. He's probably going to leave after his junior year. Then, Quinn Ewers only has to sit for a year. If McCord does win the job, then, you know, maybe the percentage drops to maybe like 60%, but I still think the overwhelming, you know, odds are that he's going to end up at Ohio State.
Guys don't really decommit from Ohio State. They're not Clemson level, where it was huge news when Corey Foreman decommitted from them because they hadn't had one, and you know they have like a board up in their locker room. You know, it's been X days since our last decommit or whatever. You know, one of those things, and it's years and years and years. Guys really only decommit from Ohio State when they get recruited over. Like obviously recruited over. Like they have like a low 3-star kid, and then you know they load up at D-line at the last minute, and all of a sudden there's not really a spot. So I think that Ewers is almost a guarantee to go there, to be completely honest. And, you know, because he was already committed one other place, and then this stuff was already all mapped out at Ohio State, and he chose to commit there. So I think he's well aware of what the situation is. And, you know, like we talk about all the time in Devy debate, those guys go in there and they welcome it. So I don't see him decommitting. Do you, Matt?
No, I don't. What's going to make it very interesting is if McCord does win the job, and it's not going to be an apt comparison because I know Lawrence was a freshman, obviously, but was it Kelly Bryant, right? Am I remembering that correctly at Clemson? I think that's what's going to be interesting is then obviously you're going to have Ewers going into his sophomore year, McCord going into his junior year. Could that be a battle for the job at that point? It's all going to depend on how good McCord has been playing those past 2 years. And if McCord wins again, at that point, does Ewers transfer? Because he's only going to get 1 year of playing realistically before I don't see him as a guy who supposedly as talented as he is staying for his senior year at Ohio State. So that's when things are really going to get interesting. But I think regardless, he's going to go in there as a freshman, and maybe it's one of those, hey, sit this year, you know, learn the offense, and then next year you'll get a real fight and you'll real battle to try and win the starting job over McCord, and that will become a very interesting battle in 2023. Which I do expect to happen because I do expect him to win the job. That's why he's a top 10 ranked quarterback for me right now.
McCord?
He is, yes. He's my number 10. Yeah. I'm not kidding. He's number 10.
All right. We'll get there. Next
we won't get there. Everybody else has him like way lower. So
yeah,
I had to throw that in there because.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can. Yeah, because next is a guy I want to be higher on. I want to move him up even more. I am the high man on Desmond Ritter. He's the consensus 9 for our group, and I've got him at 7. I probably, I think he's going to go above Keaton Slovis for me, but y'all have him. Some of you guys, Colin, 18. I really just, I don't know. It's like we're taking Carson Strong or Desmond Ritter. What do you guys see you have Carson Strong so much higher than Desmond Ritter? He's got the dual threat ability. It is a G5 guy, but his completion percentage has been really nice. He's been, I don't know. Is it the tape, decision-making stuff that's not in the stats? Because, like, from a pure tools perspective and fantasy perspective, I kind of really like Ritter, especially, if he's going to be a second-round pick in your rookie drafts and stuff, he's going to be a little bit of a value. And then, he could bust up like Jalen Hurts did or something like that.
Yeah, I think Ritter's a great fantasy quarterback on the college side. He finished last year with an average of 29.5 fantasy points per game, which was just ahead of Trevor Lawrence, just ahead of Dylan Gabriel. He adds like a really nice threat with his legs there, 592 yards. I think the 12 touchdowns from last year is unrepeatable. I don't think he gets 12 rushing touchdowns again. That'll probably drop closer to his, first and second year average of 5. So, I think that's going to drop a little bit, but I don't think that's going to affect his fantasy output too much. But I think overall as a prospect, I think he lacks consistency. I think sometimes his arm looks great and he'll fire in this tight window throw, right over the middle, squeeze it in right between the safety and the linebacker, hit the guy in stride. It's beautiful. And then the next throw, it's all over the place. He misses a guy on a screen. He throws it high over his head. So his consistency worries me, especially consistency with ball placement, but consistently overall. And then I think he just does not have a good feel in the pocket for pressure. I think he keeps his eyes up, which is really nice, but he just does not feel the pressure very well. He takes a lot of hits. He takes some unnecessary sacks at times. So I think from an NFL perspective, I don't really see him as a great prospect there. So I think that's why I'm lower on him than some of these other guys. But, You know, I mean, I think if he, you know, if you want the production on the college side, you know, he's a great quarterback for the college side. He's just going too high, and everybody else is like higher on him than I am. So I'm not going to end up with him at all.
Yeah, I'm with you, Alfred. I'm with you. I like Ritter a lot. My biggest concern is something that Colin just mentioned, and his consistency. Obviously, I don't think his mechanics are all that great either, but I think some of that is because of Cincinnati's offense. I'm not comparing him to Trey Lance because he doesn't have quite like the arm that Trey Lance does or even the athleticism, but I feel like when watching Trey Lance's tape, North Dakota State does everything they can to make Lance the weapon that he is because he's just better than everybody on the field. I feel like they use Ritter's legs too much sometimes at Cincinnati and don't let him use the arm, so he hasn't really been able to kind of work on that. I do think that he could be very much like a Lamar Jackson at the next level if he goes to a team that is willing to build around him and kind of help what's the word I'm looking for? Like groom him and continue to help him grow, because I think he has all the tools to be a very good quarterback. He just hasn't quite developed to that stage yet.
All right. So we will try to kind of wrap this thing up with a little bit of a bow for these top 10. We've given a nice conversation on everybody. And the last one in the consensus is going to be Grayson Mccall comes in at 10 for our group. And he is a very interesting discussion. I'm actually going to recuse myself for the moment on what I think. I want someone else to talk. Let me just say the high guy on McCall is no surprise Felix because of probably the rushing ability. But Felix, you got the floor on Grayson Mccall, Coastal Carolina, Cinderella season, and now he is a top 10 quarterback for you. Tell us about it.
So Grayson McCall is an athlete, but as an NFL prospect, he has time. So he's going to be at the helm of that offense for probably another 3 years, I'm guessing. And he's already shown the requisite athleticism to be an NFL the draft pick, not in day one, but an NFL draft pick. And so the question is whether or not he has the NFL arm to be an NFL draft pick. We don't know that yet. I think that he might. I posted some clips very early in the season. I even wrote an article on Dynasty Nerds about Grayson McCall very, very early on. And he gets time. You know, somebody like, a senior who hasn't really taken a lot of snaps, they're not going to get as many reps. But Grayson McCall is. He's going to be in an explosive option offense for the next 4 years. So we could see him really develop. The fact that he is a redshirt freshman starter is really big for me. And the fact that he played as well as he did this year is really big for me. So we know that he has the requisite size, he has the requisite athleticism, and whether or not he has the requisite arm, we're going to find out.
All right, so it sounds like this is a ranking on tools and the clay that he will get molded into. But who else doesn't like him? I mean, you mentioned option offense. I think that was the thing that once I kind of turned on some tape and started watching a little bit myself, it was like some true option stuff. And I mean, that just to me wasn't it wasn't like read option stuff that's going to the NFL. It was like legit, like two running backs back there and you know, the full like student body left type option stuff. So that concerned me as to what their offense is, you know, translating to the NFL. Anybody else got some thoughts?
I think he's the hardest quarterback in the top 10 to project right now of guys that we've seen play. Based on what you guys have just said, you know, with the option offense, not a particularly strong conference where we're going to get to see a lot of games with him challenging himself. And I haven't looked at what their schedules are the next couple of years to see, you know, if they have like any big non-conference games on the slate. I have a hard time believing they do because I don't think that they expected to be good. Like, you know, teams always want to be good, but you schedule those games as those teams in a year where you think you're building up to, you know, if we get this one big out of conference game and we win it and then we go undefeated in our conference, you know, we have a chance for a big bowl game. I don't think that they ever expected to be kind of in the situation that they're in. So, but I do think he's going to score a lot of points on the college side of things over the next couple of years. You know, they really only lose Maribel from that team this year, right? I think everybody else comes back. So at the very least, I think he has a really good year in 2021.
Yeah, Isaiah Likely, the tight end, who's going to be an NFL draft pick himself. Jalen Heli, he's going to be back to the deep threat for him. So he along with Malik Willis, he's a G5 guy that could potentially lock you into the playoffs on the college side of your campus to Canton leagues.
Over the next 2 years, their best opponent is likely going to be Army. To answer your question there.
Did you just look at that? Oh man.
I did just looked it up. Yeah. They don't have their full 2022 schedule up yet, just 2021. And I mean, it's Texas State, Buffalo. Who is the other ones here? I'll look at it really quick. Arkansas State, Appalachian. Well, Appalachian State's okay. Troy.
Well,
South Alabama.
Yeah, that's Sun
Citadel.
Belt,
yeah. They don't have anybody.
That's going to
really
be tough.
Good.
Well, you bring up a guy that we will probably, that's a nice segue. We'll probably get into the, in that, subscribers only content, but why really should Grayson Mccall be so much higher than Malik Willis other than he's a redshirt freshman? So that's a question maybe we can ask. Cause I think, waiting and going with Willis and getting a pretty elite year on the college side, at least next year is going to happen. And then, NFL prospects, is Grayson Mccall really that much better as an NFL prospect? I don't know. But like you mentioned, Grayson Mccall is going to give you 3 years probably on the college side of extremely, good production. So, and C2C that matters, and in straight Devy, it doesn't. So, anyway, well, that's a pretty good review. Let's go back on the top 10 consensus for our group. And obviously we discussed a lot of names, but just to recap, number 1 consensus based on our group is Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell at 2, DJU at 3, Bryce Young at 4. Is this right? This is right.
Yeah, you're good. You're nailing it.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels at 5. Well, I was surprised that I was surprised Bryce Young was 4. I thought Jaden Daniels would be, but it's Daniels at 5, Slovis at 6, Carson Strong at 7, CJ Stroud at 8, Desmond Ritter at 9, Grayson Mccall rounding out that top 10. And that's our consensus. That is available for anyone to take a look at. If you come to C2C or campus2canton.com, you just want to check it out. We have the top 10 of all the positions ranked for you on the campus side. So it's college players, and on the pro side, the Canton side as well. If you want anything deeper, you're going to have to, open up that pocketbook. And then we're going to also, it's just $3 a month though, so you don't have to open it very much. And that should be well worth your time to all the things you can unlock with that I mentioned in the beginning. But you've got rankings, 400 college players. I mean, you just can't find that. I don't even know if you can find that on Rivals, to be honest with you, like 400 college players ranked. And then the data app, which is incredible. You can play around with that for a limited time and see all that visualization of all that college data, which you cannot find anywhere else. And then the league classifieds is really nice. A couple of people actually were on Twitter today saying, anybody have a C2C league opening? And I was just directing them, go check that out. We've got 6 listings right now. So there is people posting on there already, and we hope to grow that as well. So it's a nice hub for people to find leagues and try this format that we all love so much.
Please take those spots, or else I will have all of them. And that
will put a strain on your young marriage.
No comment.
Yeah. So, I can't take all those spots either. I mean, I'm pretty good. Although I am going to shave off a couple of leagues that I'm just kind of done with and be transitioning to more C2Cs this off season. So anyway, for all the Campus to Canton staff, I am Alfred, and you guys need to check out the next. We're going to have a follow-up kind of after show that we're going to go deeper into some of these quarterbacks all the way out into the 75s, into the 100 rankings of college quarterbacks. Yes, we have actually combed through 100 college quarterbacks and decided exactly where they should go in the rankings. We're going to talk about that. But for now, this is the end of Why Wait Till Sunday special edition top 10 quarterbacks on campus2canton.com.